Grab a drink, everyone. Let's begin.
All right, so as I understand, you were an evangelical pastor for a while.
Yes, I was an evangelical charismatic Christian for the better part of 36, 37 years. Much of those years spent in active pastoral ministry. Some of those years I was not a pastor. Other times I was on staff at churches, but always in leadership at some capacity.
And 36 years of that. Oh my
Yep,
gosh, I didn't realize it was that long.
yep. I'm
Oh
an
man.
old fart. It took me a while to wake up, you might say. It's embarrassing, honestly, because I never truly examined what it was I believed. I just accepted it because someone told me it was the thing to believe, and I thought it's kind of cool. Jesus is coming back. Let's win souls, but the Bible was the truth. So yeah, let's learn it and teach it. And so I never really dug in and looked behind the curtain. It's embarrassing to admit that now.
I don't think that's embarrassing. I mean it. With the club that I'm a part of, there's a lot of people who went on Mormon missions, and there's also a lot of people who didn't. And I don't know. I feel like as long as you get there, not to say that you have to become an atheist, but I feel like it's still a good
It's a
journey at least.
better way. It's a more truthful way to look at the world, if we're being honest. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like I'm not trying to sit here and say I'm right and everyone else is wrong. That was the Christian motto. But all I
Yes.
am saying is examine the evidence, open your mind. Uh, let's look at what's rational and reasonable, and let's draw a conclusion. And if someone can show me that evangelical Christianity or any kind of Christianity or any kind of religion is reasonable and rational and makes sense in the world today, I'll take a look at it. But
I,
I don't see that. I don't see anyone coming up with some reasonable explanations.
yes. And did you feel that same way as when you were part of the faith as well?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing about religion. It divides because it always says my faith is right and all the others are wrong. And you don't find people, whether they're charismatic, Pentecostal, or Mormon, saying, "Yeah, I guess we're all kind of right." You don't hear that. Everyone says, "No, I'm right and you're wrong." And then we have, even within the Christian faith, we have 6,000 denominations and variations of denominations, and they're all tweaking it a little bit, saying, "Well, you kind of got it right, but you missed this. I know we've got a real corner on the truth. We figured it out, and it's this." And so there's all these competing ideas, and the bottom line is they all can't be right, but they all can be wrong.
Yep. That one took me like 3 years to get to.
Yeah. So as an evangelical Christian, yeah, I thought ours was the right way. I mean, we even went so far as to, I mean, we were what most people would think Pentecostal. We spoke in tongues and believed in healing and prophecy and gifts of the Spirit, and we just felt like the people like Baptist and Church of Christ, yeah, they believed the Bible, but they didn't believe all of it, because if they did, they would be doing the things we're doing, and they're not. So they haven't gotten all the truth like we have. There was a phrase we used called full gospel. We believed in the full gospel. They just had part of it. And so, yeah, I thought mine was the right way, and I thought everyone else was wrong.
So
I
wait,
wasn't arrogant about it. I just thought that was the truth.
so this full gospel concept, was it like the whole Bible was right in every way, or was it
Yeah, yeah. The
okay?
whole Bible, from beginning to end, was God's word, inspired, infallible, and you had to understand it. You had to interpret it the right way, and you can't really interpret the Bible without the power of the Holy Spirit. And so people would read the Bible. Two different people could read the Bible or read a Bible passage and come away with completely different understandings of what that says.
And
And the
that's where
diff-
you end up with the 6,000 different
that's right.
denominations.
And the difference we taught was that we had a lock on the truth because we have the Holy Spirit helping us to understand what that verse means, and you don't, because you're not as in tune with God's Spirit as we are, and so you don't quite have as much understanding of God's truth as we do. That's just, I mean, when you break that down, how arrogant can you be?
And yet, atheists are known as the supremely arrogant people.
Exactly. Yeah. And we're the
The
ones simply saying, I don't know. And you show me the truth and I'll believe it. But show me something besides your idea and your opinion.
Yep, for sure. So, what was it that began your transition, your deconversion?
Well, I asked for a parking spot and I didn't get it. So I got mad at God. Yeah. No, that's what a lot of people say. Oh, you're just mad at God, or
Yes.
God didn't answer the prayer the way you wanted him to, or you just want to sin, or whatever. No, it was a process over many years. I mean, that many years of serving the Lord, I always encountered issues or questions or doubts that I didn't have answers for, and I shove them aside and push them down and trudge on as a faithful soldier, and just kind of put that out of my mind and believe that God's got it figured out and there's stuff I don't understand, and just keep trudging on and doing the right thing and being a faithful servant of God. And over a period of time, after just so much of that, it just became exhausting. I say it this way: I ran out of reasons to believe, and I got tired of making excuses for God's poor behavior.
I like that. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
that's
that's a simple summary, and a summary I've been using now a lot in my talks and stuff is a line from a Maya Angelou poem. It's the whole poem. She just simply says this. She says, "Do the best you can until you know better, and then when you know better, do better." And that sums up my change from being an evangelical Christian to an atheist. I was doing the best that I thought. I was doing the best I could. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was living the right way. And then I had an awakening over a period of time. It wasn't an overnight thing. I didn't go to bed one night a fervent Christian and wake up the next morning and say, "Oh, fuck you, God, I'm an atheist now." It was a period of time. It was a year and a half of examination and thought and study. And but I came to the conclusion that what I thought was good was best. I found a better way to live. I found a better way to look at life. And so I was doing the best I could. Then I found better, and now I'm trying to do better. It's that
I,
simple.
I love that, and I actually have to say because I found you first from your working with a how to heretic,
Hmm.
and then right after that you were on the Atheist Experience.
Yeah.
And I will actually admit that when I heard your segment on how to heretic, I heard them say, "Oh, he's going to talk about death," and I went, "Nope," and exited out the window. And I was like, "No, I can't handle that right now."
Wow.
So I had to go back like a week later because I was worried it was going to be this depressing, really dark subject. And in that moment, I was like, I can't handle this shit. I've got to come back to it. And no,
Yeah.
I was surprised with how entertaining and quick on your feet you were.
Well, like I said, I've been talking about this a lot in the last 6, 8 months, and it's a subject I'm fairly comfortable with. I don't know why. I just am. I've never really been afraid of dying, and now that I'm facing it in a few years, I want to talk about it because it's a subject that many people are uncomfortable with and maybe afraid of or unsure of or whatever. And it's just like anything. If you shine the light on it and you take the lid off of it, it takes a little bit of the mystery away. It takes a little bit of the fear away, and you can just look at it as something that's very natural and normal. And let's just talk about what that means, what it doesn't mean. What are we afraid of? Why are we afraid of it? Examine it a little bit, and it loses its power over you.
Right. It's kind of like shining or turning on a light in a darkened attic or something. It's no longer this whole
Yeah,
big scary mystery. It's something to explore and discuss and find out what we can about it and our feelings and everything.
I think many of our fears concerning death are rooted in our Christian faith, our childhood, where it's this big dark. I mean, the Bible talks about death as being an enemy. The last enemy that shall be destroyed is death. So when you think of something as an enemy, you're going to be afraid of it. It's going to be intimidating. It's going to be fearful. And so, yeah, we look at death as this monster that's going to come get us someday. And so,
Right.
yeah, we're afraid of it. And yeah, it's mysterious because we don't know what's on the other side. And we're afraid of what we don't know. So we've got this big thing built up, and then you factor factor in this afterlife, eternity, heaven and hell. I mean, the reality is hell is fearful, but think about heaven. That's fearful as well. Who the hell wants to sit around on clouds for eternity, whatever the hell that means?
I was actually going to bring that up because for me, I was raised hearing that if you went to hell, like people would come and preach to you and you'd have the chance to accept Jesus. And if you didn't, you would eventually be, my parents described it as cast into a black hole, like completely
Yeah.
destroyed along with Satan and his demons. And all I remember thinking as like a 4 or 5 year old was, oh man, that sounds so much better than this heaven, this idea of eternity. So that kind of backfired.
Imagine that. You're sitting around singing Hosanna. I mean, for 7,000 years, and then you're just getting started. I mean, who the hell wants to do that?
Seriously.
The concept makes no sense on either place, heaven or hell. None of it makes any sense if you break it down and examine it. But we have these vague ideas of, it's even built into our language. You've got songs like Stairway to Heaven or Highway to Hell,
Yeah.
and all this language is built into the fabric of our culture, but nobody really ever stops to examine what exactly is this? What does it look like? How does it sound? Even in the Christian theology, there's all kinds of mixed messages about what heaven is. There's
Right.
streets of gold, there's clouds, it's a new heaven, a new earth, New Jerusalem. It's a shit show.
It really is. Yeah, I know with Mormonism in particular, it was kind of funny because there's like different levels of heaven.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, but then the ultimate goal is you basically become God and you can create your own world and basically play Sims for,
Is that where you get your own planet, or is that Jehovah Witness?
No, that is Mormonism. Yep.
Oh, you get your own planet, man. If I would have examined all that and laid all the religions out, I don't know. I would have been tough to choose between having my own planet and having 70 virgins. Now, I would want the religion that gives me my own planet with 70 virgins. That would be awesome.
Well, that's the thing. Here's my question: can you run the planet, like a Greek god would? Because then
Yeah.
you'd have plenty of virgins for you.
Well, I mean, who's going to be serving you on your planet? I don't know. Do some people get to go to a planet, but they're not in charge of it? They're lieutenants or captains or what? How does this work?
I'll be honest, I left so long ago, or like was mentally out, that I have no clue.
I don't think anybody does.
Yeah,
It's just
that's true.
that's why it's all so weird.
Well, do you want
Anyway,
my
yeah.
favorite part of the whole Mormonism thing is that have you ever heard of Kolob?
Yeah, vaguely, vaguely. KOLAB.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like the original planet, and then that's why there's dinosaur bones, is that this was originally a
That,
different planet with different life and all that. And
yeah, that
they,
makes about as much sense as a talking snake in a garden.
yes, but then the cherry on top is that they believe that God has his own planet somewhere in the universe, and if you knew the coordinates and we could get there, we could travel to God right now, which is
See,
so brilliant.
I we viewed in our world viewed you guys as a cult. Mormon, you guys were cults.
Yep.
You weren't the true faith. You weren't true Christians, because you had all. Think about this a minute. We thought, my God, who's going to believe golden tablets and horse and all that shit? That's crazy. But we believe a virgin gave birth. We believe a snake talked. We believe a man walked on water and raised from the dead. We don't believe the crazy stuff, just the normal stuff that happens every day.
Yes, just the normal crazy things, not these extra crazy things.
Oh my God.
That's a spooky world right there.
I just think the world's a better place without religion. I really do. I know there are some benign versions that don't really hurt anybody. They want to believe in something out there, and they want to believe there's a nice God that started things, or they. I know that there's nice versions and non-toxic versions of religion,
Hmm.
but overall, I think the world's a better place without it altogether. I really do. We
I
just don't. We don't need it.
I completely agree, and I honestly think that those kind of laid back, not so literal Christians are going to survive the longest. I think all of the
Oh
fundamental
yeah,
Christian
yeah.
faiths will be gone eventually. Obviously, they have a
Yeah,
stranglehold on even just the basic culture here, but
yeah. It's a death rattle, if you will. It's they're clinging to it and raising up a furor. But I think it's because when you feel your grip, you're losing your grip. You try to strengthen your grip, and you grasp a little harder, a little higher. And I think that's what's happening. It's not going to happen quickly. It's going to take a while, but it's happening.
right. I agree with that. So when did you receive? I mean, maybe I shouldn't spoil this for people that don't know. It was beginning this year. How did you find out about your diagnosis, and what is your diagnosis?
Yeah, I started having symptoms. Looking back, most of last year, back in the spring of 2018, I know that things were going on. I just didn't know what they were, and I was losing strength, and thought maybe I'm just getting old and weak, and started working out more and stuff like that. And then toward the end of the year, I knew something was wrong. I couldn't grip a golf club. I couldn't hold a bowling ball. So I started going to doctors after January 1st because of insurance reasons and deductibles and things.
Oh, gotta love
And
healthcare.
yep, yep, America's got a handle on that, don't they?
Oh yeah.
Uh, so after multiple doctors and specialists and tests and so on, by February 26th, the exact day, I got the final diagnosis that I have ALS, which is more commonly known as Lou Gehrig's disease, which is a fatal illness with no cure and no medication that does anything of significance. It carries with it an expected lifespan of 3 to 5 years, is what they typically tell you. 3 to 5 years from diagnosis to death, which really means 2 to 3 years of functional life, because the last couple of years are really ugly, where you basically lose strength in all your parts, hands, feet, tongue. You can't walk, you can't talk, you can't feed yourself, you can't clothe yourself, you can't wipe your ass. So you're pretty much dependent on everyone to do everything for you, and that's no quality of life that I'm interested in.
Right. I
So
don't
I'm
blame you.
I'm only interested in the years where I can do enough things myself, and even with people's help, to make life have a quality that I'm okay with. So it could be 2 years, it could be three, it could be four. It's very unpredictable. It's hard to even predict where it's going to go next. Right now, my loss of strength is in my hands and fingers and arms. It's getting harder to do things with that part of my body. But I'm still walking fine. I'm obviously still talking fine. So that's kind of where I'm at. And after February 26th of this year, everything kind of changed, and I made a lot of changes in my life and some uh, rapid and drastic decisions.
So in 2 months, you went from. I mean, I'm impressed it only took 2 months for you to process this and then go, all right, let's do something with the time I have.
Yeah, well, February 26th, let's see, March, let's basically say by March 1st, within a short period of time, I retired from work. I was working in the insurance business, and I hung up that, and I moved out of my apartment. My lease was up in my apartment in Nashville at the end of April. And so I decided not to renew that, and I moved in with friends in a suburb of Nashville, and I started selling stuff and giving stuff away. And I made plans. My immediate thought was I'm just going to travel as much as I can and go see people I haven't seen in a while, and spend time with friends or family members that still associate with me, and do things I want to do while I can, because I don't know how long I'm going to be able to do stuff. And so that was my original thought, that I was just going to live life to the fullest. I wasn't going to sit around and wallow in my misery or self pity. I just wanted to jump on the train and ride it as far as I could, as long as I could. And so by April or so, I already had a trip to Italy planned even before the diagnosis. So that was at the end of May, about a 2 week trip with some friends. But shortly after I moved out of my apartment, my assistant Marie, that you've talked to,
Yeah.
she she heard me talking about wanting to do some podcasts and talk about dying as an atheist, and it became known as dying out loud, which is now the thing we call it. But it's essentially, I decided I wanted to start talking about dying as an atheist as opposed to my former view as a Christian, where there's an afterlife and so on, and just embracing death, and by contrast, which means embrace life and live life to the fullest. And so she started reaching out to podcasts like yours and others, and just started this barrage of. I've done over 30 podcasts since then, and
Wow.
the live shows down in Austin and some speaking things. I'm really about to ramp up on that. I've got about 5, 6 cities I'm going to between now and the second week of December.
Oh my gosh. And you just got back from Kansas, right?
Yeah, I was in Kansas City and headed to Seattle. Then 2 weeks from now, I go to Philadelphia, then Houston, then Toronto, then Madison, Wisconsin. I'm just putting the hammer down and I'm going as hard as I can because I just know my time is running out, and I love
Right.
connecting with the people and talking about this. The response has been overwhelming. So that's kind of what I just jumped on and jumped in and started talking about things that matter and doing things that matter. And it's been incredibly overwhelming and surprising, but at the same time, some of the most gratifying and fulfilling things I've ever done in my life, to be honest.
That's incredible. And I'll be honest though, hearing that schedule makes me feel exhausted, and I'm not even part of it. How do you how do you manage that, knowing that you are losing your strength? How can you go, all right, well, I wish I had a day off, but instead I have to get on a flight and head to Austin for the weekend. Now I have to go over here. And
Well,
how does
it's
that work?
it's an interesting paradox because I thrive on the energy that it provides me. I'm energized every day I get up. I mean, I think about, and I've met in the ALS community, I've met a lot of other people in my position, some better, some worse, and many of them don't have much to do. They just they're essentially sitting around losing strength and then waiting to die. And that's really kind of what you're left with this diagnosis.
That's
And so
terrifying.
it is indeed. So I think if I didn't have this dying out loud project to give myself to, I would be miserable and bored and depressed. But as it is, I get up every day, I answer emails, I respond to messages, posting stuff on the various social media sites. I'm planning the next trip. I'm responding to people from the previous trip. I'm it's just constant. It's like a full-time job.
Yeah, I mean,
But
it sounds like it.
but I absolutely love it, and I feed off the energy of it. And so what happens is I get excited about a trip and I go and do it, and I get high from the energy of connecting with people and talking about this and getting feedback from people. And then I get home and I'm exhausted, and I go, what the fuck am I doing? And but then after a couple of days of being home, I'm bored, I'm restless, I'm saying, okay, I got to go somewhere.
That's
So
it. I'm done with this. Where can I go?
yeah, so it's really an interesting cycle, but I love it. I really do.
That's fantastic. So, with traveling around everywhere, with doing podcasts and interviews, what are the biggest things that you want to share with people?
Well, there's two phrases that kind of developed out of this. One of them is carpe the fucking diem.
I love that so much, by the
Yeah.
way.
Well, it's interesting because a friend of mine gave me a pillow a few years ago with that stitched on it, and I had it in my apartment. So it's nothing. It's actually, honestly, it's the way I was living before I got the diagnosis. After I rebooted my life after my divorce, I started living life to the full and living it on my terms, authentically and honestly, and comfortable in my own skin, and just loving life. And so that was kind of my mantra before the ALS diagnosis, and now I'm just kind of doing it on steroids.
Interesting, because from what I had understood before, it, well, I shouldn't say that, I guess. From what I had thought, it was you got the diagnosis and it kind of flipped a switch for you to go, all right, I've got to live life to the fullest now. So
Well,
that was
it
before the diagnosis.
it actually it flipped a switch in the sense that I've really got to push the hammer down now. In other words, I trimmed the sails, I lightened my load, I got rid of stuff. I live in a a spare room with some friends. I've got minimal wardrobe. I don't own anything. I have a car. I can still drive, but I really have a really light load in life, and I only am doing the things that I feel like are important, and I spend time with people, and I hardly watch any TV. Not that that's bad. I love it, but I don't have the time for it,
Right. A
or the
blessing and
interest
a
in it
curse.
because I'm corresponding with people all the time. So all of that to say that when I got the diagnosis, I just really shed everything extra that didn't matter. And so in essence, that's what became my message, the dying out loud message, it's the fact that life is nothing more than a collection of moments. And that's an epiphany I had when I rebooted my life 3 years ago. And again, that is something I was already living, but I amplified it when I got sick. And so what I want, if you, to answer your question, what I want people to hear to take from this is that you have one life. We don't have an eternity. We don't have eternal life. We have this life. We don't know how long we have, but we know it's brief. We know it's finite. We only have a certain number of days. So the question is, how are you spending them? What's important to you? What do you value? Are you doing the things that you value? Are you caught up in something that's sucking the life out of you because you have to do it, you think, or you just got into a routine of doing something and you don't know what else to do and you're kind of stuck in a rut, or you're depressed, or you're sick and you're fearful? Those are all things that are common to the human experience. But what I'm saying is, does it have to be that way? Are you living your best life? Are you grabbing all the moments? Are you carping the fucking diem? Or are you just letting the life happen? And so that's my message in a nutshell. And there are moments out there for all of us. And the message is resonating. I got an email from a person in England a few weeks ago that had seen me on some show or heard me on some show, and she sent a picture um, of her and her daughter out at a fair having some food and enjoying an outdoor day. And she said, just the phrase she used just brought me to tears, because she just said, "Here we are grabbing some moments," and then she just said CTFD. Um, a picture from a guy in Paris wearing a WWDD bracelet, which I'll explain in a minute.
Yes,
Uh,
please.
um, these people all around the world who are hearing me talk about this, and somehow it's making a difference in how they view their life on a daily basis. I can't think of anything better than that for how I can make a difference in some people's lives. It's just overwhelming to me that this has happened, and but it is, and I'm so grateful, because the message is really simple, but it's somehow, because I have a fatal illness and I'm talking about it in honest and blunt ways, somehow it's registering with people and it's making a difference with how they do life. And I just am so thankful for that.
I think part of it is that, I mean, you mentioned before you want to talk openly and honestly. You just cut to the chase with things, and that's almost rare.
Yeah, I guess so.
Just
It,
cutting right to the heart of it, especially on such a sensitive topic, is almost a unique take on it that is really eye opening.
I guess that's it, because to me, it was just instinctual, and I don't know. It's just, I don't know why. It just is, and so it's not. People tell me, I hate to use words like brave and inspiring and all that kind of stuff, and it's humbling to hear that. But I don't consider anything I'm doing or saying special. It's just who I am and how I'm approaching this. And I also want to say, and I'm always trying to be careful not to make it seem like I've got everything under control and I've got this and it's no problem and everything's great. I have some really, really dark days.
Yeah.
And I have some times when I wake up in the morning and I realize this is not a dream. This is real. I'm dying. I'm losing strength in my arms. There's times when I'm trying to do something and I can't do it. I can't get my hands to do it, and it's frustrating as hell. Yeah, I get mad. I get sad. I'll cry. So I don't have it all figured out. I'm just doing the best I can with it. For the most part, on 90% of my time, I'm pretty positive about it. I'm pretty upbeat. I'm pretty aggressive with life and happy. I've got wonderful, wonderful people in my life that are supportive, that will do anything for me. I've got people that have asked me, "Can I be there with you at the end?" They want to be there
Aw,
in the room when I die. I don't know.
that's sweet, but
It's unbelievable to me. I don't know. I said, "Are you serious?" And yeah, he said, "It would be an honor." And so I've got a half a dozen people that have expressly asked me if they can be there with me because they want to honor my life by honoring my death and by being a part of it. And I guess that's the summary of it.
I can already tell you that when that time comes, it's going to make a lot of people really sad, but
Yeah, I
you
know.
will be heavily remembered. And I know, at least for myself, I will be. One of my favorite phrases ever that you introduced that we talked about earlier was do your best until you know better and then do better.
Hmm.
That phrase and carpe the fucking diem will stay with me probably for the rest of my life.
Oh man, thank you for saying that. That means everything. I just to hear people say that kind of stuff just it makes everything I'm going through so meaningful and so precious because when you think about it, how many of us get to leave a mark, get to do something that somehow makes a difference that's significant? And I'm getting to do that now, and it only came about because I have this illness. So it's this weird thing that this the darkest time of my life has become in so many ways the best time of my life, and it's just unexplainable, honestly.
That's incredible to hear. And I can't imagine the waking up and living with that knowledge too.
Hmm.
Oh man. Also, I'm an emotional person, so I had to like shut up for a second.
Yeah, I cry
Whew.
almost every time I talk. I do. So the WWDC thing, that's a funny thing. You remember the phrase WWJD, what would Jesus do?
Oh yeah.
That was a thing back in the day. So we have a local ex-Christian atheist group here in Nashville. We meet once a month usually, and we just get together and support one another and talk about life and how everybody's doing. And so the meeting we had about a week after my diagnosis was very emotional. There were a lot of tears, a lot of people processing how they were dealing with the news, and it was really, really, really heavy. And one of the women, we go around the room, we take turns sharing about what's going on in our lives, and one of the women was talking about her frustrations of yesterday or the day before, and she was anxious about something and getting caught up in frustrating, just the nuisances of the day. And she's caught herself and said, "Wait a minute, Dave wouldn't be upset about this. He's got so much bigger things to worry about. Why am I getting upset about something so trivial?" And she was basically kind of just reminding herself that there aren't that many important things in life to get worried about. Just calm down. And then somebody across the room said, "Yeah, what would Dave do?" And then someone else piped up and said, "Yeah, WWDD." And so out of that became this. The woman that actually was sharing her story is an artist, and she said, "I'm going to make some bracelets," and so we're going to sell these bracelets, and the proceeds will go to Dave's travel costs when he's traveling. But this is just something for people to wear to remember that to remember what's valuable in life, what to focus on, what not to get carried away with, just to relax and enjoy the moment and realize that life is short and precious. So people started buying these bracelets and wearing them, and I started getting pictures. They would post pictures online from literally all over the world. And when I got a picture from this person in Paris, France, wearing a WWDD bracelet, and I just thought, man, this is a weird life I'm living.
But how thrilling.
Yeah, it's
I
just,
love it.
a little thing that. So when I hear people saying they're grabbing the moments, WWDD, Carpe the fucking diem, and people are saying that stuff, and what it means to me is they're hearing what I'm saying, it's registering with them, it's making a difference in their lives, and I just am so thankful for that to be able to do that. I mean, and I've got messages from people in dire situations that are encouraged, people with cancer, with terminal illnesses, in severe depression, wartime trauma, and
Wow.
they're telling me that stuff I'm saying is making a difference on how they view life, and it's just it ain't getting better than that for me. That's why I'm so energized to do this.
That's awesome. Wow. Okay, I hate to do this because I just like chatting, but I want to move to some questions that I got
Sure.
from a bunch of different people because I know your time is limited. So I'm going to jump around between some of the some of the different club members that I
Yeah.
have that ask me questions, some different Christian groups. Um, so one that I found really curious was someone in the club asks, "Have you had a change in taste when it comes to art? So music, movies, paintings.
Hmm.
Did things become more melancholic? Did you gain greater appreciation, or was there a shift at all in your appreciation of art?"
Probably not in an appreciation, but probably I'm more moved by it than I used to be. I was always an empathetic person, very emotional, compassionate person, but I think that just got amplified. So I'll find myself more often, uh, more readily in tears or moved by certain music or art or just the beauty of the day, which in itself is art.
Yeah,
So I don't know if my taste changed. Maybe they just got more amplified.
gotcha. So this comes from a LDS person on campus. How would you now, as an atheist, interpret your moments of feeling the Spirit or God's presence from back when you were a Christian?
Yeah, I would interpret that as human emotion, as our connection to the energy of the universe, our connection to other people, our brain waves, and how we process stimulation, whether it's music or uh, um, being in a meeting with people or outside in nature. I think all of those things can be explained in human and rational terms without connection to a supernatural deity.
I'm with you there. I remember long after I had mentally checked out of the church, I went to Warped Tour. So it was just metal music, really hard screaming, you name
Yeah,
it. And
yeah,
there was a moment with the crowd, and the lead singer had us all like kneel down, and then all at the same time while the music was building up, jump, and everything dropped, and there was such a sense of connection with everyone there and the band there, and it was very similar to feeling the Spirit. And I was like, oh
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's not a
That's
church specific emotion for sure.
exactly. It's human connection, and I think that can explain most everything.
Yep, I'm with you there. So this is something. This is actually from me because it's something that I ask myself all the time. Because I keep myself pretty damn busy because that's how I like it.
Hmm.
But I'm also a little bit of a perfectionist, so I'm always thinking, "Damn, I could have changed this. I could have said this in a better way." What do you feel you could do? Excuse me. What do you feel you could be doing better, if anything?
Uh, that's a good one. I've learned. I think the quote about doing better that we mentioned earlier kind of captures all of that because anything that we look back on and think I could have done better, we just put it in that category. I was doing the best I could. Now I've seen different. Now I'll do better.
Oh
But
shit, you're right. I don't know why that never occurred to me.
well, because it's a simple concept, but it's hard. It's hard to get it in the moment. Oftentimes we get those simple things as we look back, and it's much like, I would have done a lot of things differently, but I've learned that regret is a very costly emotion.
Yes.
I don't let it linger. Um, so yeah, I mean, I can look at like I'm in a relationship with a woman, my girlfriend, and we've been dating for quite a while, a few months, or I don't know what quite a while is in anybody's mind, but 6, 8 months. But we had some rocky times, and I was off again, on again, and in and out. And I learned. I looked back at that, and I said, "Man, I could have done that a whole lot better." I was just scared. I was uncertain. I was confused. And so, as we dealing with something as heavy as this, there are many times I'll look back on interaction with other people or thought processes or how I spent my time and think, wow, man, I could have done that better. But to me, it's just a matter of saying, okay, I get that now. I see where I messed up. Now I'm going to do better.
Right. And the hindsight is 2020. I think it's so easy to look back on things and think, oh man,
Right.
this is. And as I said already, I'm guilty of this all the time. But looking back, I went, oh, I should have done this. In the moment, it was the best choice we had at the time. At least
Yeah,
we felt
yeah,
like.
yeah.
All right. So this comes from another person in the club. Do you have you struggled with any suicidal thoughts after finding out your diagnosis? Like any sort of urge to take that timing into your own hands because your estimated period is just that, an estimate, and it's not even. I mean, it's really rough. There's years of variation in there.
Yeah, I will technically end my life by suicide. That's a lot of people don't understand that, but the method I plan to use is not it's not needed. I don't have to go to a state where it's legal. I don't have to have a doctor assist me. I can take matters in my own hands because oddly enough, suicide is not illegal because you'll be
Right.
dead, so
How are
they
you
can't.
going to charge a dead person? Right.
So an organization I'm working with called the Final Exit Network, and they help with the equipment and the instructions and all the legal stuff and doctor all the uh, forms and everything. You get everything in order, and then when I'm ready, I do it.
Yeah.
So I I'm a very strong proponent for letting people in my situation end things on their own terms, and not have to take it to the brutal end.
Right.
But I know that I'm also aware that I may change my mind on when that time comes. I may draw a line and say, okay, when I get to this point, I'm going to end it, and I may get there and say, you know what, I want to stick around a little while.
Let's move
So
it to this point.
I'm going
Yeah.
to move the line, and I've got the ability and the right to do that. So,
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's your life in your hands. You're free to do whatever you will
but
with
as
that.
far as getting depressed and suicidal thoughts, no, not a bit, because I love life so much and I want to squeeze every minute I can out of it. And I'm loving the connections with people and the moments I'm enjoying. And I would not want to end it prematurely. I'm going to get everything I can out of it.
Love it. So this is a question I had written in. I'm actually not sure if they were religious or not. I'm assuming not because of the question. Have you ever looked into being a Satanist, like the temple of Satan, the non-theistic? They don't believe in Satan. It's kind of the spirit of rebellion.
No, I don't really need that. I'm a part of several groups that identify as ex-Christian atheists or agnostics. And, we have a vibrant community locally here, and then I'm in touch with a lot of people worldwide online, and that serves enough in community that serves me in terms of the community that I seek and that I want. I don't feel the need to do whatever it is they're doing. I understand the motivation behind it, where they're trying to advocate for getting religion out of society, but I'm connected with Freedom from Religion Foundation and Recovering from Religion and some organizations that are doing things in ways that I think maybe are gaining more ground in the long run. I'm not sure,
Right.
but I haven't felt the need to get into that.
And that makes sense because I almost feel like with the Satanic Temple, I get why they're doing it, and I see the almost the shock value and the satisfaction of something like that.
Right, right, right.
But I feel like sometimes it closes more doors than it opens.
Yeah, if it stops conversation, then it's not helpful. But we've got to, and I understand. Again, I see the sentiment like you do behind it, and it is at times it is necessary. Like when they're wanting to put a Ten Commandments monument up somewhere, and the Satanists say, "Well, we want to put our monument up too, equal rights." I get it does draw attention to the right kind of issues, so there's some value there.
Right. So this comes from an LDS member. Do you miss anything about being an Why can't I speak English? Evangelist. English is hard. Look, it's my first language, my only
It's
language, and my worst language.
Words are hard. Look at our president. I mean,
And now I feel better about myself.
I'm sorry. Do I miss anything about being an evangelical Christian? I do not. I I am so I detest so much the core values of evangelical Christianity and what they stand for in terms of the theology and the dogma and the damage they're doing and the pain they've wreaked over the years. I know people personally who are still dealing with the ravages of their of the religious trauma that they experienced, whether it's the purity culture or
Oh, don't even
fear
get me started on purity
fear of
culture.
fear of hell. All these things have caused lasting damage,
Yeah,
and I'm so disgusted with that tribe that I don't miss anything about it. The only value that it brings is community, and I've found that in the atheist community. So I know people in other parts of the country and world who do not have local community of like-minded people, so they're prone to miss it maybe a little more, but I don't miss anything about it. Honestly, I don't.
gotcha. I was really curious what your answer would be because I wasn't sure if there was any part that you might miss. I know for myself, like I wasn't in it long enough to really have anything that was like, wow, I miss that in particular, especially now that we're starting a community.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so this is once again me. Have you done anything since the diagnosis that maybe you once thought was too dangerous? Like, do you kind
Uh,
of get rid of that and go like, oh well, what the hell?
Not really. I never was much of a fearful person anyway, so if I wanted to do something, I didn't worry about the danger element. But I'm supposed to go skydiving. I had someone reach out to me that has a skydiving school, and they said, "Hey, anytime you're in the area, come do one on us."
Yes.
Um, so I would do that. But no, I was always kind of a risk taker anyway. So nothing really changed in that regard. I'm not. I don't have a death wish. I'm not going to go out trying to do
Right.
something and think, oh well, if I slip up and die, no big deal. Because I do. I don't really want to die. I want to live as much as I can.
Yeah. Totally. And I mean, you're doing a lot of good with the time you have for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, from another person from the club, do you feel more fulfilled dying as an atheist than living as a Christian? And where would this difference, if there is one, come from?
Well, living as a Christian, I felt fulfilled in doing it because, as we said before, I thought I was doing the best I could. I thought it was the right way to do it. I thought I was helping people navigate important issues in life and then navigate, what their afterlife, by being on the right side of the coin. But I do find a lot of fulfillment in dying as an atheist because I am doing it out loud and I'm not doing it fearfully or I'm not going away quietly. I will not go quietly into this good night. So I do find a lot of fulfillment in dying as an atheist and exposing a little bit of the fear that underlies it. And also I'm loud and proud about the idea that I'm not like we said before, no atheists in foxholes.
Yeah.
That's bullshit. I'm in a foxhole and I'm an atheist. So I don't know what are you going to say about that?
I and I'd say you're in a even tighter and more confined foxhole than most because traditionally that's like the military comparison where there might be a chance and you're kind of you don't have that.
Right.
I feel like
Mine's more certain.
right.
Right.
Maybe it's a longer foxhole, but that's about it.
Yeah, a little deeper.
So, excuse me. I mentioned before I have anxiety. A lot of the times it's not a
Hmm.
problem. Sometimes I maybe won't notice kind of the warning signs that I have more anxiety building up and it'll kind of hit me all at once. So, for people that are depressed, that have anxiety, that wake up and have just like from the get go are struggling,
Hmm.
what would you say to those people?
I won't pretend to understand depression because I know it's a real thing and I don't have it, so I can't say, well, you should do this
Right.
because I think that minimizes the disease. And so
Definitely.
I would never pretend to do that. But all I can do is speak from my own experience and say that, and I'll just share. I got a message from a lady a couple of months ago, and it was one of the most beautiful things I'd gotten. And she literally said that she went through it was a long message, and a lot of them are these people. I mean, people are really the responses have been overwhelming. But she said, I came across your show, Atheist Experience, or something else, and I started binging your shows, and I started binging every atheist thing I could do. And I'd been an atheist for a long time, and I used to be a Christian, but I've been in severe depression. And she literally said she hadn't left the house in a year, and
Whoa.
she could barely walk across the room without a cane.
Oh.
And she said, I started listening to your message, and I got up and I got my ass out of the house. She said, today I walked 5 miles. I talked to my neighbors. My
Wow.
my son asked me, Mom, what's going on? She said, it's changed my outlook. Now, I don't know if her depression was clinical or not. I don't know what it was. I know it was circumstantial. She's part of it because she shared some details of her life with me since then. Um, but just if I could say something to people who are struggling with that, it's just that as best you can, focus on what matters. Realize that there's beauty in this day, there's moments to be grabbed. I have a friend who suffers from depression, and she's well aware of my message. We've known each other a long time, and she messaged me the other day and she said the message was simply this: what if there are no more moments? And
Yeah.
I knew what she was saying. She was struggling. She was having a hard day. She was despairing of life because she'd had a suicide attempt before. And I didn't pop back with some trite thing. I just
Yeah.
pondered it a minute, and I said, I'm sorry you're going through a rough time, but I believe there are always moments. We just have to find them. And she said, thank you. That helped. So that's what I believe. There are moments there. We just have to find them. We have to make room for them. We have to give them a chance to happen. And if we do, we'll discover beauty in unexpected places.
Yeah. If if I can piggyback off of that a little bit, um, so listening to everything, I mentioned before, I'm closeted to my family. They don't know.
Yeah, right.
Um, I haven't had any type of community. Only one person or maybe two knew I was an atheist. So I've been trying to find a community, couldn't find one, and started to make one.
Yeah, good for you.
Um, and there were definitely times when I was like, this is not going to work. Like this is
Hmm.
not. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I'm a good person for this.
Right.
Um, and I know that at the time I just found you, and there was a moment of maybe I should just stop this. Like I didn't have any trust in my
Hmm.
skills or anything like that, and I just thought, oh, what the hell?
Right, right.
And I figured that I would get better the more I did it, in the spirit of once you know better, do better. I figured I would learn and just keep going with it.
Hmm.
And your message helped me keep on reaching out, send hundreds of emails, and get back two that actually got me in a position where I joined with someone else trying to start a community.
Awesome. Dude, that's amazing.
And
Good.
that's in part because of you, for
Oh
sure.
man, thank you so much. But it's you because you made, I'm a believer that we people can point us the right direction or give us a little spark, but we are the ones within us that make the change. We have the strength in us. We just have to find it and then pull it out. And that's what you did. Good for you, man.
Hey, thanks. One thing I wanted to bring up as well, just because it's a pet peeve of mine with really the culture in America in general, is that there's a lot of people who look down on therapy or like the need to go to a therapist or
Oh,
find a
yeah.
counselor. Do you do you find the need to go to a therapist or have any counseling like that right now? Are you just in a position where you don't need that? Because,
Well, that's interesting. I've at different times in my life, I've been in therapy. I wasn't in the last few years because I just felt like everything was fine, and I didn't, some people ascribe to the idea that you should just go all the time. It's just kind of like keeping the engine running clean, that kind of thing.
right.
And I see that. I do. So interestingly enough, though, my friends here that I live with have a couple of other friends of theirs that I've known them socially in the last couple of years. I've gotten to know them, and they're both psychologists. And I thought recently, just only in the last couple of months, I thought, you know what? I am talking about some serious things. I'm talking to a lot of people. I don't want to miss anything. I don't want to say something in a way that could have been said better. I don't want to do something in a way that could have been done better. I don't want to I want to finish strong. I want to burst across the finish line. I don't want to crawl or whimper. I want to explode across the finish line. And I need help in processing even the things I'm thinking about and the things I'm talking about. And so, yeah, I've actually got a therapist appointment tomorrow, and I see one weekly.
Love it.
Yeah, I'm a strong proponent in it because to me, it's like a physician for our mind. We wouldn't not see doctors. We get checkups all the time with doctors, but we need to keep our minds and our hearts and our emotions healthy, and we need help doing that.
And it's really hard if you weren't taught that by parents to know
Oh, I wasn't.
how to
Yeah,
handle your emotions. I mean, there's so
yeah.
many different ways that is easy to just
Oh, and
think you have a handle on it and drown it
yeah.
in alcohol or whatever it is.
Well, in evangelical Christianity, poo-poo's uh, professional therapy. We'll do biblical counseling all day long, but they really poo-poo the idea of going to therapists and psychiatrists. And you just pray about it, and God will do it. And we give you scripture for it, and we just do scripture band-aids. And so yeah,
Oh,
I had that my whole adult life. So yeah, I had to overcome some ideology that was very harmful.
yeah. And I mean, I am intensely biased because I'm studying psychology right now.
Oh, good.
So
Good.
this is not exactly an unbiased approach, but that drives me nuts. I can't stand that attitude and that belief that gets propagated by different, and I feel like it's often religious groups.
Yeah, it is.
Ugh. Okay, so I have another question. How do you strike a balance between all of the work you're doing and play? Doing the things that are not as important. It could be watching TV. It could be going out and getting a
Yeah,
beer and not having any to do anything for the rest of the night.
I do
Where is
plenty
that
of that.
balance, and how has it changed since the diagnosis?
It's I think before the diagnosis, I was just doing my work, and my life was all about, my business and making money and then playing. So I didn't really have a lot of what I would consider important work to do. But I do now, and so I do still build in playtime, and even on my trips, I build in a lot of margin for relaxing and sightseeing or whatever. Like I'll go to Seattle and we'll probably do a whale watching tour, and I'll have plenty of downtime just to enjoy the city. And so I'm very aware that I've got to also have leisure and fun. And I'm a fun guy, so it's not hard for me to find fun wherever I go.
True.
So it's not a hard balance for me to strike.
Cool. I honestly think that's key in that finding the fun even during and in between the moments of work and intense focus and everything.
Yeah.
That can make a huge difference
Hmm.
rather than waiting for, okay, now I can allow myself to relax and enjoy my time. I think that's a
Hmm.
trap that a lot of people fall into.
Yeah.
Um, I know I don't want to keep you for too long. A couple more quick things here. Well,
Okay.
maybe not quick. Uh, we'll try and make it as quick as we can. So this comes from a Christian. How has dying changed your relationship with your still Christian family?
My still Christian family doesn't know what to do with it. They've been very aloof, a bit unpresent. Again, I think they don't. I think the problem with Christianity is that you have to factor God into whatever's happening. What's God saying? What's God doing? Whereas an atheist, we just look at it. Oh, this is life. This is what's happened. There's no God doing anything. So now, what do I want to do?
Right.
So they don't know what to do with this because here I am, an atheist who used to be a Christian, and now I'm dying, and in their view, I'm going to hell. So what is God up to here?
What is his plan and role in all
Yeah,
this?
yeah. How's God fit into this narrative? And so the simple truth is he doesn't, but they don't know how to talk about that, so they just don't talk at all.
Gotcha. So it's just
Yeah.
a point you don't talk about with your family then.
Well, they don't reach out. They don't ask me. They don't say, "Hey, how you feeling? How you doing?" You
Gotcha.
know, it's just very, very quiet.
Wow. From the same person, they ask, what differences do you notice in your atheist community now that you have versus the Christian community you were in before?
Differences in the sense of diagnosis or just in life?
Just in life in general. So the differences in maybe the support you had or the relationships you had and how close you were with people, not with a diagnosis, just with an atheist
Yeah,
versus a Christian
I
community.
think the main difference I would see is that the Christian community always had a little bit of an agenda because it was always this unseen guest at every gathering, which is Jesus sitting in the corner invisibly looking at you. So you had to measure everything you said and did, and you had to check everything, and everything was measured and careful. And you really weren't free to be who you were because someone might judge you for what you said or did or didn't say or didn't do. So the atheist community, all that's gone. You're completely open to be who you are. You're not worried about anyone judging you for anything or anyone, and it's just a different kind of a feeling. We had a retreat a couple of weeks ago. Our We have an online organization um, that people came from all over the country to this retreat, and so we had room assignments, and it was really neat for me to see these two friends of mine who've become they're both gay and they've become somewhat of a partnership. They're not, in a true relationship, but it was really neat to see their names on a door at a retreat. And I thought, wow, this is different. Two dudes' names on a door. You'd never have seen that in my Christian world before.
Yeah,
So
they would rather be caught dead.
it's completely open and accepting and completely free and devoid of any kind of judgment. And I love that.
That's wonderful. And that's what communities should strive for, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, I know we've gone over time. I want to wrap things up a bit here.
Yeah, yeah, I got to pee too. So,
Perfect reasons. Well,
uh,
thank you so much for all this. I really appreciate you coming on and chatting with me.
I've enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to Utah in the spring. That's going to be a blast, man.
Yeah, I'll have to introduce you to the good bars in the area, and
Absolutely.
all the good things about Utah. We'll go through Temple Square as well. That should be fun.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, man. My
All right.
pleasure.
Thank you so much. Have a good night. Go
You
pee.
too. Okay. Bye, brother.
Bye bye.